So we Minnesota Fighting Vikings fans are so used to the national media jabroni haircuts, just talking about our team and not putting some respect on our name, and then just taking these massive dumps all over the place, like so much dumps that it could fertilize crops for a decade, right? So we're used to that, but it is weird when the national media outlets just rank the Vikings and talk about them accurately. Which is fair because I'm not going to say that the Vikings are going to have the best offensive line in football. It'd be nice, but are they going to be a top 3, top 5 unit? Probably not this year. Maybe down the road once some of these assets develop, and also Riley Reef and Pat Elflein get GTFO the field, right? But when an outlet looks at the Vikings offensive line and doesn't rank them 30th, 27th, 25th. It's almost like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my hands right now. I just don't. So the score ranked all 32 NFL offensive lines, and the Vikings clocked in an 18, which I think is fair. I think is exceedingly fair, especially with Pat Elflein remaining, especially with Ezra Cleveland potentially not cracking the starting lineup. I think as of right now, I mean, that's probably better than you would expect. So this is what they ran through. All right, so they outlined the top 5 left to right. Reef, Elflein, Bradbury, Dakota Dozier taking over that right guard spot. Of course, favorite of Rick Dennison, as well as Brian O'Neill, right tackle. Depth. So they got Rashad Hill, Ezra Cleveland, Brett Jones, Aviante, Drew Samia, and then they do not have 6th round pick Blake Brandel, 7th round pick Kyle Hinton, as well as favored Oli Udo currently on the team, right? So this is also what they wrote up. Quote, Gary Kubiak joined the Vikings coaching staff as an offensive advisor before last season and brought along some of his former assistants like line coach Rick Dennison to help implement his system. In our 2019 offensive line rankings, we discussed how that would impact Minnesota's blocking and Dalvin Cook's fantasy outlook. After finishing 23rd in Football Outsiders adjusted line yards in 2018, the Vikings rose to 7th in 2019, with Cook compiling 1,654 yards from scrimmage and 13 touchdowns over just 14 outings. Kubiak has now taken over as the offensive coordinator. Well, he basically was anyway, but yeah. And all 5 offensive line starters from a year ago are returning. Continuity will give the Vikings a significant edge, especially with their lack of high-end talent. Oh, that's a shot. That's a shot, John. This group is the definition of the sum being greater than its parts. With the second rounder Ezra Cleveland added to the mix, Minnesota can now lean on its improved depth. Kirk Cousins dealt with plenty of pressure in its first campaign with the Vikings, landing in the top 10 in sacks taken with 40. However, he was kept much cleaner this past season, and the sack total falling to 28. The lack of passing volume and losing Stephon Diggs makes Cousins a low-ceiling fantasy option, but his protection should be solid once again. And I think that year 2 of Kubiak, I think will greatly improve the offensive line. I think having that continuity is big. I think Gary Kubiak has worked with marginal quarterbacks for a number of years and done good things with them. So you look at Matt Schaub with the Texans. You look at Jake Plummer back in Denver. You look at Brian Griese in Denver. You look at the corpse of John Elway. You look at Denver. You look at 2014 Ravens with Flacco. You look at the corpse of Peyton Manning at the end in the second run with Denver, and then Trevor Siemian. Gary Kubiak can do it, and I think that he certainly will with Kirk Cousins. I think he'll find a way to manufacture time for him, move the pocket, a lot of bootleg, a lot of play action. That'll also help out the offensive line, make them look better, frankly, as well as Dalvin Cook. I mean, Dalvin has been used to running behind shoddy offensive lines. I think that with a little bit of continuity up front, with a little bit of improvement at Garrett Bradbury, as well as maybe someone else getting at that right guard spot, I think that will be great. And I think Dalvin would just make them look good. Like Dalvin last year was one of the highest ranked running backs in terms of yards before contact, but he still had a phenomenal season. I think if Dalvin can do that yet again, if he can stay fully healthy, then all of a sudden this offensive line looks better and better and better, as well as you have Brian O'Neill potentially turning into one of the best right tackles in the league. I think Ezra Cleveland will eventually get in the mix. Blake Brandel, who we've been hearing has been ahead of the curve, I think that he eventually gets a shot as well. And all of a sudden, baby, you got a Stu going up front. And because it was a transition where the Vikings for a number of years were more of a power gap scheme, specifically with Adrian Peterson. And that was the whole, hey, there's your man, kick some ass, get off the ball, do that. And as the Vikings have been implementing more and more zone concepts, specifically outside zone concepts, where you need lighter, more athletic offensive linemen, where you're blocking a zone as opposed to blocking just a man. And then that transition does take time, and it does eventually take a couple of years, both for free agency and the draft and just attrition, to eventually get your personnel where it fits your scheme. And I think Kubiak and Dennison have been doing a great job. They did a great job last year, improving from 2018 both in the run and passing game, and now just tack on another year. I think they'll be good to go. So overall, I think the score here makes some sanguine points. I think they make some fair points, as well as I think 18th heading into the season is a relatively fair ranking. But by the end of the season, if you told me if they redid this article and the Vikings are top 12, I believe it. And then going forward, Vikings could be a top 10 unit, especially if Cleveland gets in the mix, especially if Oli Udoh and Drew Samia and Kyle Big Hinton really gets it done. It'd be great. I'll take that. But again, it just makes me feel all itchy. Just the national media outlets saying accurate things about the Vikings, not just lies and deceit and just hate. It's just so weird. Just so odd. But your thoughts? Vikings 18th ranked offensive line in football? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. If you want to support that work, pull some of the Venmo. But until next time, Skull, production value.